So, good day, everyone. So this is the um, second part of the lecture. So I will divide the lecture from part one, part two, and part three. So in part one, so the topic were discussed were the organization and the personnel. So this is the third topic in part two of my discussion. So so equipment. So let's proceed. So negotiating equipment acquisition. So upon checking, upon arrival of the machine or the equipment in the laboratory, you need to check all of this information. So wiring diagrams. These wiring diagrams can be found at the back of the equipment. So na dito. Then there is also a operator's manual. Inside the operator's manual are these information, the wiring diagram, the software information, then parts list. That should be included in the operator manual. So na dito. Then next is installation by the manufacturer. So the manufacturer will install the software of the equipment and the wiring and operation of the equipment. So sila ang mag-process sila ang mag-install and set up the equipment inside the laboratory. So the manufacturer's engineer or the software engineer or the application engineer. So they have this application engineer. So that application engineer is a medical technologist also. So kay ang software man siya, ang application sa testing in the equipment. So next is there should be a trial period. So it depends on the agreement between the lab and the manufacturer. When is the length of that period? So it's either 3 months or 6 months. So just to test the functionality of the equipment and reliability jud sa equipment. So during testing sa inyong trial period testing. Then next kay before equipment installation, so there should be a confirmation between the vendor's responsibility in writing. So there is responsibilities in writing. So the vendor's responsibilities includes maintenance of the machine and maintenance, calibration, and kanang if there is a breakdown of that machine, they need to have that agreement that their engineers are readily available 24 hours, 24/7, because the labs operate 24/7 if the lab is in the hospital. So there is 3 shifts in the hospital, in the laboratory. So it's either 6 to 2 or 7 to 3, 7 to 3, 11 to 7, and 11 to 3 to 11, 11 to 7, which is your graveyard shift sa night shift. So either if there is incident within your shifts, you need to call the engineer. Dili magbot-bot nga if there is a machine breakdown, if your troubleshooting will fail, then simple troubleshooting lang ha. Dili siya hardware troubleshooting. If ever you will become a medical technologist and it happened na nag-breakdown ang machine in your shift, then narakay specific task for troubleshooting. Then again, you need to check your SOPs na to dito in case the machine will break down. So number one things to do kay call the engineer for help. Then establish checklist. So checklist means dapat na dito tanan ang mga, for example, available parts, name of the parts, then compatible reagents for that particular equipment, and things like your basic troubleshooting na dito that will be included in your checklist. And unsa pa, number of the ang important ang number sa engineers. It's either biomedical engineer or the mechanical engineer and the software engineer or the application specialist engineer or application specialist. So next is equipment installation. So when possible, have manufacturers install and set up the machine. Again ha, dili magbot-bot. Si manufacturer, their engineer should install and set up the equipment. Then do not attempt to use prior to installation. So the installation should be completed before you use the machine, for sure. Then next is verify package contents. So verify package contents. So what is included in your package contents? Nga dapat na dito ang mga spare parts inside the machine and mga calibrators, pipetors that will be included in the machine also. And cleaning reagent, sometimes they will place cleaning reagent also. Then next is software and copy of the software and parts of the system. So there should be a copy of the software. So nasa manual operator's procedure together with the machine during arrival. Na dito ang mga copy sa software. So next kay after equipment installation, so mag-inventory record. So if the machine is complete sa mga usaman parts, especially the parts, then wala by missing mga arms inside the machine. So ano siya. So after installation kay you need to confirm it with the engineer beside you. So usually these responsibilities are intended for the supervisors in the section of the lab. Asa dito gibutang ang new equipment sa lab or sa laboratory nga saman ng asa siya dito gibutang ang equipment sa section on the lab. So inventory, so calibration, then mag-calibrate dapat una, then verification for the function. So if it's in function or if the arms are moving or the parameters are correct. So like your pressure gauge inside the machine, you can see it in the software, in the monitor of the machine or the equipment. Then operating procedures of that equipment, so or the operator's manual, it's just the same. Then maintenance program, so there should be an established maintenance program like your daily cleaning or the calibration or the maintenance, yearly maintenance, and engineer visit It's either yearly, quarterly, or after 3 months. So, dapat na ay regular visit with the engineer even walay breakdown sa machine. Then after that, the supervisor will train all of the operators of the equipment. Iya, i-train tanan. Especially those medtech that are rotating medtech or the generalist medtech. Those medtech that can rotate in those non-specialized section of the laboratory, like your hematology, chemistry, clinical microscopy. Then, next. So, after installation, equipment calibration will be performed. So, initial calibration will be performed. Then, we will use calibrators. Siyempre, because from the word calibration, we need calibrators or standards for that matter. Then, follow the manufacturer's instruction guide. How to calibrate the machine or the equipment. Then next is to determine the frequency of routine calibration. Again, if it depends on your laboratory or your SOPs in the section. So when is the frequency of your calibration? So it's either if there is new controls or if there is new reagents being used, so you need to calibrate. So it depends also in the SOPs of the section. So next after calibration, after installation, then we proceed to performance evaluation. Then test known samples and analyze data. So ano siya? You need to test samples. So you need to have a parallel testing. You need to have a parallel testing, like if you have 10 samples, then each sample you need to divide the sample to 2. So one sample, same sample, divide into 2, then you need to test the other one to your old equipment. If you have old equipment, if there's no old equipment, then you need to test the other sample to another partner laboratory for parallel testing. This to ensure the accuracy of the test of the machine. So, usually plus minus 2 is D lang na sa inyong quality control sa inyong Levy Jennings chart. So, you will know this Levy Jennings chart when you will become third year in your major subjects. So, Levy Jennings chart is very useful in all section of the lab. So, if there is a test, there should be a Levy Jennings chart to monitor your control. Dili ra na mo run ka, then forget that control, then proceed. You need to document everything. Good. Then the equipment should be temperature controlled, since the equipment is will generate heat. So the equipment should be placed near in the air conditioning unit. So that's why when you will come in the laboratory, you will feel cold, since the normal temperature in the lab will be 20 to 24 degrees Celsius. So muna siya dapat 20-24, since ang lab contain different kind of equipment. Especially your lab is very lang, dili siya wide. Then validate performance with parallel samples. That was mana akong giingon ganiha. that should be parallel testing to validate accuracy and reliability of the equipment. So next is preventive maintenance. So there should be routine cleaning, so daily cleaning. So that's routine. So the routine cleaning should be every after shift. So if your duty is from 7 to 3, you need to clean your your section first before you perform a test. So cleaning from bench top, then surfaces of the equipment. Surfaces lang ha, dili lang. It's not allowed that you will open the machine. Nga, mag-cleaning. Makaguba pa mo ana. So, cleaning. It's either cleaning and isa pa. Then next is adjustment and replacement of equipment parts. So if there is, usually this will happen if there is a machine breakdown. So you need to replace particular parts of the equipment. So you need to call the engineer for this to maintain the machine and fix. So function checks. So first, monitor instrument parameters. So it's either periodically or yearly or 6 months, daily, weekly, or monthly. So after major instrument repairs, so you need to check if these parameters are in tune or in correct parameters. Like your pressure of your arms of the machine, the pressure of the pivotor inside the machine, the sucking and blowing. So na siya yung mga number parameter, normal values of the parameter that you need to check, or the movement of the arm, the X and Y, if the arm is still in line with the X and Y. So mukuha na gina siya above or lower, then that's time you need to recalibrate the equipment. So example is your incubator temperature. So you need to set the incubator to 37 degrees. Then after 1 hour or 2 hours, then you need to place a thermometer to check if it's accurate. If it's 37 degrees Celsius. So incubator is 37 degrees Celsius usually. Mama na siya. Then wavelength calibration. So this is very useful in your clinical chemistry. Then next is autoclave temperature chart. So you need to check your autoclave if it's properly functioning. So one control they use in the lab is using one bacteria. The name of that bacteria is Bacillus stearothermophilus. So mana ang control bacteria for the efficiency of the autoclave. So mana siya. Next is create an equipment inventory log. So this is the example of the inventory log. It's either it's manual or computerized ang logbook inside the lab. So it's the inventory should have instrument type. Inventory log should have instrument type, model number, or the serial number. These are the identities of the machine equipment. So if there is a breakdown, then if you will call the engineer, they will ask you about the serial number of the equipment or the model number of the equipment, then that's the time that you will bring parts, necessities specific for that equipment. So before they will go to your lab to fix the machine, so they need to know that these informations. So next is location in the laboratory. So there should be, you should log this information. So asa ang location sa equipment. So this is also safety protocol that you need to log all of this information. Then the next is date purchase. So your date purchase determine the warranty of your equipment. So that's the first day of the for the warranty. So pila man ang warranty, if ever ang warranty is good for pila 2 years or 6 months or 1 year. Either lang na siya. So next is manufacturer and vendor contract information. So dapat naa siya information sa contract information sa logbook. Then warranty and spare parts. So mo na siya inyong warranty and spare parts. Next is the troubleshooting. So these are the examples of troubleshooting. So what is the source of the problem? So it's either sample or your reagent or water problem or electricity, and the main problem will usually the equipment yun. Then you can troubleshoot this by yourself, or you can call the engineer if you don't know how to troubleshoot, dili magbuot-buot. Then what is wrong with your sample? Maybe your sample is clotted. So if the sample is clotted, then the machine cannot extract blood sample from the tube because the blood is clotted. So what's wrong? So you need to correct this problem. You need to correct the problem. Sample should not be clotted. So if there is clot in the sample, then the machine will not work. Then you need to call the engineer to replace that clot, replace that defective needle of that equipment. So next is reagent. Usually the main problem is the expiration date of the reagent. So ang medtech wala na nagtanaw. So ikuha ra diretso ang reagent without knowing the expiration date. So mana siya. So you need to replace your reagent with not expired ones. Then water. So water, so there's might be a leakage in your ceiling in the lab. Then you need to move the equipment away from that water drops in the lab, or redirect that water leakage in the ceiling away from the machine, or call your carpenter or the maintenance in the hospital. They will fix good na diretso. So next is electricity. So maybe the problem is electricity good. Low power low power ang hospital or nag-overload, then there's a sudden surge of electricity na na-overload ang equipment. So basig wala nagbutang og UPS ang nagtinihik kay wala gid butang ang UPS ang equipment, then the repercussion of that one is the breakdown of the equipment due to electrical shortage. So last troubleshooting is the equipment itself. So you need to, this time you need to call the engineer. So call the engineer or the software engineer. Nganong wala siya nag-function kuan normally. So when in-house efforts fail, call the manufacturer or other technical experts. So dili magbot-bot again. Then you need to call the engineer and the software engineer for there is problem in the equipment that you cannot troubleshoot. Then look for options to continue services. Like you need to have a backup machine. Usually nowadays and in the laboratory they have backup. So if there is two backup machine in, for example, in clinical microscopy, the other one should be run daily with control also. You need to run the control with the backup machine because if there is incident that the other one will break down, then that's the time you can use the other one. Then refer your sample to nearby laboratory. So if there is problem with the machine, then you need, if there is no backup equipment, so you need to send your samples to partner laboratory. So nanay siya under your SOPs, it will the SOP will stipulate options for contingency plan. So every laboratory should have this contingency plan in their SOPs. Siya. In case of fire, in case of simbakulan, in case of fire sa lab, or in case of kanang emergency na kuan yun, all of the equipment are na breakdown, then they will send their samples to other partner laboratory under the SOPs of the lab or the standard operating procedure of the lab. Next is recording problems. So you need to you need to record all of this information. So as part of your documentation in the lab. So date problem occurred, if there then equipment removed from service. So this information are part of your incident reports. So no the in the lab ay dapat every steps na ay documentation to support your reason ever there is questioning. So dili ra na siya verbally ang mga saman incident, there should be document. So date problem occurred, then equipment removed from service. So it is not necessarily na the equipment will be removed out from the laboratory. So nara na siya inside the laboratory, we'll just place a note or a statement that this equipment is not in service. So reason for breakdown or failure. So mo to akong those 4 reasons. It's either the sample nga clotted, sa pa electricity or water, or the machine itself nga reason. You will know this reason, you will know the reason in the monitor of the machine. So the machine will pop on an icon nga unsa ang reason for that breakdown. So reason. So that pressure error or arm error na siya sa monitor sa machine. So corrective actions taken. So unsa may action after machine equipment breakdown. So call the engineer and fix the machine. So under your incident report, corrective actions. Then date return to use. So, ano siya? Date to return to use. So, na in service na siya ang machine after you call the engineer, then the engineer fix the problem, then you need to document when nga na ayo na ang equipment. Change in maintenance or in function checks. So you need to ask the engineer if there is changes in maintenance in the functions, and you need to check that if it's still correct. So you need to base the changes in your manual operator procedures na dito tanan sa dito. So this is the example of the logbook. This is the example of the logbook. So mo na siya na dito ang equipment type, trademark. Then next, so I will end this lecture. So that's the end of the part 2 of the discussion. So your next topic is purchasing and inventory. So this will be your part 3 of the lecture.